Welcome back to 2 p.m. with the Trigger, but special edition all week long coming your way. Hey, it's Rich Bontrager, the Trigger, back with you on this beautiful, beautiful Monday. And it's National Stutter Awareness Week. We've been talking about this for a while. And this week we are going to be sharing not my stories, but other people, leaders, influencers, authors that stutter. Stuttering affects millions of people worldwide. And in fact, 1 out of 100 individuals worldwide stutter. You probably know somebody that has this disorder. But we're also going to break that down. We're going to help you understand what it is, what it's not, why we don't need to fear it, but you do need to know there is no cure. However, many people have overcome and thrived and not let this disorder disrupt their life and their plans in the future. Today, we have a really great guest with us. It's Likky Lavji. He's the president and co-founder of the blindspots.global.com. He's from the greater Vancouver region, and he's widely recognized as an expert at the art of showing business leaders and teams how to identify their blind spots, leverage their full potential, elevate their performance, and he stutters. Welcome. Happy Monday to you.
Thanks for having me on there, Rich. Appreciate it.
You know, what a great introduction. You have had a super career, but I bet it wasn't always that way as a young child and in maybe your college years even. Tell us some of your story, if you would.
Oh, thanks. No, it wasn't easy. I've had a great career so far. I've had a lot of fun doing it. However, the journey of my life in Canada started when I was 10 years old. And I remember the teacher had asked me to share how I immigrated to Canada. And I was 10 years old. English wasn't my first language. And, when you're 10, you don't really care. So you get up on front of the class and start talking. And, I just got up there and started speaking. And a couple of kids started laughing. And, okay, weird. And then one kid yelled, "Go back to where you came from."
Wow.
And I didn't really know what that meant at that point. But I knew what laughter meant.
Yeah.
And then a couple of them started saying, "Go back to where you came from" again, and more laughter. I kind of looked at the teacher. I said, He said, "I don't know." He kind of shrugged his shoulders and he didn't know what to do. So I tried to continue, but I couldn't. So I got off the front of the class and went and sat in my chair. And then the life of Likky with a stutter started.
Really? So that was the beginning of it.
That was big. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the beginning. I didn't know what attributed to all of this.
Yeah.
From that moment, the life of Likky with a stutter, doesn't belong, not good enough, all began. Went through high school getting bullied because of the stutter, because of the color of my skin, because of my name. It wasn't easy. By grade 10, there was too many fights. I got in the wrong habits at that point. And by grade 11, I couldn't take the bullying anymore, so I quit school. I dropped out of high school. So you asked me about my college career. I didn't really have one.
So what was your family's reaction? Because this was something that they apparently either weren't aware of, or was this a surprise, or was this something mom and dad were aware of, but never really had brought up to you?
Well, it was just mom and my two brothers at that point, and it really wasn't evident to my close people because when I was with them, I was comfortable and the stutter wasn't always there. However, when I got into a new environment, or forget public speaking,
that was never going to happen. All right.
Well, no, but part of our traditions and our religion, we have an opportunity to speak in front of our group. And I remember speaking in front of them once, and I stuttered right through it, and I never went back on there again and did it.
Wow. Yeah. What did that do to you personally? Did it slow down your dreams, your aspirations? Did it invigorate them to say, "I'm going for it anyways"? How did that?
Oh, no, that was the opposite. There was no "I'm going for it." I was like, I'm done. I picked up a lot of bad habits and just dropped out of high school and didn't do much of myself for the first couple of years.
Was there ever a point that you said, "This is me"? Yeah, that was really hard for me. That was really hard for a long time. I would pretend to be somebody else. I didn't want to be Rich because Rich was connected to the stutter. I was bullied. I was nicknamed, but in my mind, I had to become somebody else, and I wouldn't accept me for me. Was that part of your journey?
Yeah, for sure, Rich. You have to understand that when you don't feel good about yourself, and you don't think you're good enough, you lean on others to make you feel better. And then you lean on other people, other friends, other family members. And when they don't show it to you, then you feel worthless, or at least you think you are.
Yeah.
So then I, got into some financial troubles. So I started working. I started starting up companies. So I'm on my seventh entrepreneur company right now. And so that kind of shows that I am good enough. I am able to do things. However,
Yeah.
it was hard.
Was there friend support, teacher support? Did you have someone come alongside you and say, look, I get it. The speech thing is a struggle, but there's other things in you. I see in you. Did you have anyone come alongside and do that?
Yeah, I've had two people who did that to me. One was my grade 9 English teacher, Miss Tomic. I remember her. And we were reading The Outsiders at that point. And she just kept me aside, kept me after school, taught me and worked with me and showed me hope. So that kind of got me through grade 9, grade 10. Then there was a gentleman when I was 16 or 17. I remember lying on my sofa. He knocked on my door. My mom had told him that I'm just sitting at home doing nothing all day. He knocked on my door. I opened the door, and he basically says, he said, get off the sofa and get your shit together. This is not going to work.
Wow.
And I'm looking at him, and he was a successful realtor at that point.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at him. I said, what do you mean? He goes, you've got more to offer than this. You can't do this anymore. And that's kind of when I changed. That's when I kind of leaned into myself and said, okay, this is silly. I need to do something for myself. And I started a consulting company at that point. Started doing some software and working that way. And it led to other things in the IT world for sure.
Well, I mean, you're now a president of a company. You also have done multiple companies. You eventually had to get comfortable with it and say, I can do this regardless of my speech. When did that really escalate and really grow to where you are now?
Well, yeah, I've had the companies. I had a very successful IT company for 25 years. However, success was only in my eyes. The book behind me, Death by BS, that I wrote a couple of years ago, somebody asked me, what's it about? I said, well, it's kind of an apology to all of my employees and my vendors and customers for 25 years. And they go, what do you mean? I said, I kind of treated them like crap because I was always out there trying to prove that I was good enough as opposed to just being myself.
Ooh.
So I had a guard, I had a facade, always proving, kind of obnoxious at times. People that are listening that know me probably say, yeah, not sometimes, maybe all the time. And I got it. And, I did a lot of personal growth and development work over the last 10 years to figure this out. And my turning point was when I realized where the stutter came from. When I pinpointed the moment of that grade 10 experience, I was actually able to let it go. And I don't think I've stuttered so far today. It does come back once in a while.
Yes.
But not normally.
Well, we got a comment in the chat. Daniel's going to chime in. Thank you, Daniel, for being along with us, playing along today. Some of the greatest speakers have stuttered. Yeah. Yes, that's very true. I mean, Winston Churchill, global leader, stuttered. Our current president here in the United States, Joe Biden, stutters. But there also is a story behind a lot of that they had to come to that moment, to come to that realization like you did, that I'm okay. Yeah. And it's very liberating and freeing. For those that don't understand the power of the stutter, it really does. It impacts us. When we stutter, we know what we want to say. But the words are stuck between here and here, and you get the looks, and you see people get nervous for you. Now, I don't know about you, but that was one of the worst parts. I was like, I'm going to get through this. I don't like it, but I will. But when I saw other people get worried for me, it made it worse. Did that happen for you?
Oh, for sure. They would finish my sentences for me. They would finish the conversation. And yeah, that look of, oh no, are you okay? And they meant well by it for sure.
They did.
Yeah. However, it didn't help me at all.
Now, you had no training, formal speech therapy to work through any of this, or did you?
No, I didn't. Not at all. In fact, I'm considering that now because I know when I'm in big groups, I still have some limitations of my vocal cords coming out and speaking loud enough and clear enough. When I try to do that without any training, the stutter comes out. So now I'm aware of that. So I've got to work through some of those things.
I had always wanted to be a broadcaster. I had always wanted to be someone that was on stage because my family all were pretty eloquent. And then there was me. And so my desire to do it pushed me. But also, I did have to learn tricks, but I had no formal uh, therapy or anything like that. In fact, I don't remember a time when anyone in my family even brought up the idea.
Mhm.
Now, my mom stutters. So we have two of us in the household, but no one brought up the idea. There's probably someone that can help you out. So this has been my own growth, my own learning curve. Can you give any tips for people to help them that are maybe at that point of get some serious help, keep doing it myself? What would you say to someone who's at that point where like you were?
Well, I think, as we've gone through this journey of doing it for ourselves and seeing the others like yourself come through this, we're realizing more and more that it actually is an emotional limitation. Majority of the times, it's not really a physical disability. And there are some people with it for sure. I don't
Hmm.
want to discount that at all. The majority of the conversations that we're having with people, it is a emotional limitation, a trauma that's happened in the past that's causing this. My advice to people is this: think about, allow yourself to know that you can get through this. You deserve it. You're worth it.
Yeah.
And there are people like myself and yourselves out there to help. That's one of the things I've started doing. That's why I do what I do now, is that helping people find their blind spots, because it's a limiting factor in becoming who you really truly are.
So would you say looking back, that was one of your personal blind spots?
Which one? These?
This whole limiting belief of
Oh, for sure.
because of your speech, was that really a blinder to you realizing how others saw you and how the greatness you had within you?
Well, I don't think the stutter was a blind spot. What got me the stutter was a blind spot. That thinking I wasn't good enough, I didn't belong, I'm not worthy, I don't deserve
Mhm.
it, were the blind spots. And as I started working through some of that, look, I still have some of those right now, as we all do.
Mhm.
But getting through that is a big, big, big challenge, and feels so good when you realize it.
It it is good to be on the other side, and my stutter's still with me. I openly tell people if I stutter more, most people know I've talked to my mom. There's something about it still rubs off, and I cannot escape that. But most of my life, I have now been able to learn to navigate it, almost embrace it in some ways, because it is liberating to say this is a part of me. And again, for most people, they may not understand. There's no pill. There's no cure.
Mhm.
This is a part of us. No matter how far you go, it still is there. Kind of like you said earlier, it still pops up, right?
It does, and being labeled as ADD and ADHD in grade 8, it basically said you're not smart enough.
Yes.
However, I've ran successful businesses. I just learned differently.
That was the same thing with me. We were told, and again, back in the day, the terms were stupid, idiot, whatever they branded them. Okay,
Mhm.
totally inappropriate today. We'll never hear that again. But they actually told me he fits in an LD class, a special ed class. They would test me, and I always test out of them. And then they would say, but he can't read out loud. He can't communicate well. There's got to be something wrong. And my dad finally said, and my dad was a lawyer and a judge. And my dad said, he understands big key concepts. He can explain this to you, but not in a way that you're going to first get it because his brain is working differently. He's a creative. And when they began to allow me to be that creative, when other people said it's okay for Rich to dream and think the words will come out, it was very liberating for them to understand he's not dumb. He's just not like the rest of us in a good way, right?
And that's the key point, is understanding and knowing that you are good enough. And hearing the words, I remember when I was in grade 8, I actually designed a football game on IT, in the IT world, and I was the first person in Vancouver to ever do that. I was in the newspapers and blah blah blah. But boy, that was great fame for the day, but I forgot about it. And
Mm.
because the next day I got bullied about it, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm not good enough to do that. Why am I worrying about this?" And I put that aside. And throughout my entire life, I just kept on avoiding the words "you are good," "you are
Mhm.
worthy," and not believing them. And then that turned myself into being somebody just to be wanting to prove myself, and that wasn't good either.
Dan's popping back up again, talking about the King's Speech. And yes, that, not only is it a great film, it's based on a true person that struggled, but they also did it very realistic. They didn't, a lot of stuttering films will kind of ham it up, play it over the edge, or they downplay it. That film really did a good job at showing the tics, the mannerisms, the nervousness, and even how relationships helped them get over it. Have you seen The King's Speech?
I haven't yet. I just I'm going to make a note of that to watch that.
Fabulous film on the reality of what stuttering is when it is not, and the impact, but yet how people work through it. Any final comments before we let you jump off and relax? But thank you, first of all, for doing this. It's been great, and you're kicking off a whole week of conversation like this for National Stutter Awareness Week.
Well, it's my pleasure. And first of all, thank you for making this aware, letting people know that it is possible to overcome it. And the last words I would have for people is that you do deserve it. There is hope. Allow yourself to feel it and get through it. And reach out to people like ourselves and talk to them and hear our stories.
Perfect way to land the plane. Likky Lavji. Lavji. See, I got the G messed up. But thank you for being here for today. Find him on LinkedIn, and yes, do connect. He will connect back with you. And I do want to bring up one other interesting note. Every day we're going to try to highlight someone that you may know, you may recognize. Because again, 1 out of 100 people stutter worldwide. But did you know that James Earl Jones, the great actor, the voice of Darth Vader, the voice of CNN, the voice of Mufasa from The Lion King, the great Russian from the Red October film, he's won 3 Tony Awards. He had 2 Emmys. He had a Grammy Award, and he was born with a stutter. And James Earl Jones said this himself in several interviews. Living with a stutter in Michigan was a traumatic development. It was so severe that he refused to speak. I'm not talking about he refused to talk. He refused to speak. Basically, he wanted to be a mute because of his stutter. This quote is one that's very popular when he talks about this. I was a stutterer. I couldn't talk, so my first year of school was my first year of mute. And then those years of mute continued through high school. What changed it? What made it all different? He credits his English teacher, Donald Crouch, who discovered that his gift for writing poetry was the first thing to help him break out of silence. And then he got him on stage to read the poetry. James Earl Jones, a stutterer. Again, we're going to learn some things this week. We're hopefully going to inspire you a little bit. And one thing every day, I want to encourage you to remember that when you know someone that stutters, just let them breathe and let them do it. Let them find their ways, but don't freak out. Don't panic. Don't squeeze your palms like it's a painful thing. Let them know that they know they stutter, you know they stutter, and they're okay. Come back tomorrow, 2 p.m. with The Trigger. We're going to do it again, another special guest, and we're going to dive deeper into every conversation to let them tell their story, help you understand what stuttering is, what stuttering is not during National Stutter Awareness Week. We'll see you again tomorrow, 2 p.m. live with The Trigger. That's 2 p.m. Eastern.